ụlọ nsọ gị Chukwu ka anyị na-abata, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Anya bịawa ịsọpụrụ gị ugbu a, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Bịa o bịakwute ya, bịakwute ya, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Bịa o bịakwute ya, bịa o bịakwute ya, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Chukwu nna n'ụlọ gị ka anyị na-akpọ gị, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Otito na-adịrị gị mgbe niile, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Bịa o bịakwute ya, bịakwute ya, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Bịa o bịakwute ya, bịa o bịakwute ya, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike.
Otito niile dịrị Chineke, ọbasi dị elu, Chukwu obiọma, Chidi ebere, Olisa nwa amara, ka ụzọ anyị niile ọbara bụrụ ihe, ka ihe ọbụla kpatara aka bụrụkwa ahụ mma mma, ka ụwa niile site n'ozi ọma anyị a nwụsị obi aṅụrị taa na mgbe niile ebighị ebi. Ọfọ ya gazie. Ise. All praises to Chi, the Creator, the Supreme Being, Chi the Good, Chi the Merciful, Chi the Magnificent, with grace. Let everywhere of our lives be light. Let all our acts be crowned with good. And may the world prosper from our ministry, now and forever. So let it be. Amen.
Welcome everyone who is joining us or who has joined us already, and those who will be joining us soon. Welcome, Dibia UD. Thank you for that wonderful prayer. We ask for nothing but goodness today. We ask Chineke to be with us this morning. Stand before us, behind us, above us, and ensure that nothing but goodness follow us today. Welcome, UD. Let me bring in music. Are you hearing me well? Because there seem to be
yeah, I can hear you well.
And you keep responding, so I'm thinking you're not hearing me.
Me?
You can hear me.
Yeah, well. he was responding with his baritone.
I was responding. You weren't paying attention. I was saying he said Yagazie through the whole thing.
With his baritone, he was responding.
Hey, Yagazie, my brother.
Hey, both of you are looking magnificent. So
thank you. You too. You too. Okay, take it away, babe. Take it away.
Yes.
Oh, you see.
So anyone, welcome to TSM Live. Today, something really weird. I had a dream last night. And it's, you know how you have a dream, and that dream repeats itself. After you wake up, you go back to that dream. You go back to sleep, and that dream follows you. I dreamt I was walking through a desert. And don't ask me why I was at a desert. I suppose it has to do with the topic today. But there was a scorpion. I saw the scorpion. I said, "Oh, what a large scorpion!" And I just started walking. It just followed me, and it just followed me. Initially, it was following me slowly. Then it just picked up speed, and I started to run. And it just kept running after me. And every time it gets very close, I wake up. But then I go back to sleep and there's that scorpion again. So Divya Jose, I'm asking you and Judy, why did I have scorpion chasing after me? I'm asking you.
I think personally it has to do with no, I'm saying, you know, when you have something heavy in your heart
Go ahead
and in your dreams. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm listening. I can hear you.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm saying when you have something heavy in your heart, right? And I think this particular situation with what's going on in Nigeria and all that kind of stuff. And I think that Scorpion represents, this is just me now, it represents the chaos, right? And you're trying to do something about it. But for you to do something about it, you first have to avoid getting affected by it. You know, this might have something to do with a trip going home. I don't know what it is, you know, but I think it has something to do with stress of what's going on in Nigeria and what it is that you're about to do or what it is that you want to do about it. You know, that's what that's Scorpion to me. It represents chaos. What do you think, Divya Chidozie?
Yeah, you said it right. I think you are so engrossed with this particular topic of today. I think
yes.
it has become part of your psyche and you are feeling pain. What are you going to do about it? How
yes.
are you going to address it? In fact, if you are rich, you will have decreed that some money will be awarded to such people. And so you feel their venom and their pain.
Yeah.
So that's the Scorpion there.
Yes. Yes.
And that because it's not something to do with you directly. That's why you wake up each time it gets close to you. But you couldn't take it out of your mind. So it kept coming again and reoccurring.
Yeah. Yeah. Very, very
Well,
spiritual assessment. Absolutely correct.
Yeah. That I thought so because, like yesterday, I had the Ndumodu show, which focused on a young lady who was getting ready to be kicked out of Canada because of lack of funds, and she wants to be a surgeon. And we called upon the village, so to speak, to come to her aid, and so that has been heavy on my mind. You know, how can we allow a young woman who has worked so hard to get to almost graduation to be a future surgeon, and just because the parents couldn't afford anymore, we allow her to be kicked back. So we generated quite a lot of interest to help her on her journey. So that has been on my mind. Then I got all this the pictures and videos from Nigeria about the plight of the Nigerian people who are suffering under this whole flood situation in Maiduguri. And so that's really one of the reasons why we chose this topic today, because, you know, when you look at yourself and you see how fortunate you are, you can get up in the morning and take a shower, you take care of your hygiene, you eat when you want to eat. As a matter of fact, here in this country, you eat not because you have to. You know, sometimes you don't even want to eat. There's too much food. You don't even want to eat. And when you think about people who haven't eaten for days, haven't eaten for 3 days, and I'm talking about children who have not had anything to eat for days, and you look at their faces, and I'm going to show a video. These are our people. These are human beings that are discarded like trash. And the question I have is, at what point do we, as people of faith, do we, as people who are fortunate, who have been blessed on this side of the island, what do we do? I mean, is this affecting us spiritually? Is it affecting us mentally? Are we seeing the pain of our people? Are we asking questions? Why is nothing being done? How did we get here? How do we get here? Now, I understand climate change, of course, I understand that. But they are just some things that you can prevent. Like this flood that flooded Maiduguri, it could have been prevented. The dam was breaking, and the the community was complaining to the government. The dam is breaking. After a while, after being given billions of naira, the government chose, and I don't want to call any particular government, well, the government of the state. And they told the people everything is okay. They just looked at it. Do you understand what I'm saying? This is neglect. You just come and you stare at it and you decide, oh, it's okay. 4 days later, people are swept away to sea. So at some point, we Nigerians need to ask questions and not accept it. And that's what's frustrating for me. And that's why the scorpion was following me, because it's hard on me. It was heavy on my heart. Why do we not say something, do something? Yes, Dibia Chiduzi.
Yeah, I just wanted to say you being alone in the desert is exactly what you have expressed. Here in Nigeria, we don't have a government supporting the people, so the people are alone. The flood victims are alone. And just like the girl you mentioned that was pursuing to the career of being a pharmacist, if nobody supports her, she's going to be alone. And when people are alone, they are at their risk of the scorpion venom.
Yep, absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes, thank you.
Absolutely.
So I want to share with you a video, and then let's talk about my organization, the African Women Mobilization, which is a part of Autism. I sent the national director to Maiduguri to go and see what happened to some of the people in the IDPS camp that we take care of, to see if they're alive, because a lot of the camps were washed away. Well, the good news is that today she did tell me she found the 2 young people who were taken care of and their family. They were still intact, thank God. But the whole place was just ravished. But she also showed me the challenges that the people are facing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take us all out for a minute and play some of these videos. I can't play them individually. I want them to play because they were taken with a cell phone. So what that means is that it only fills half of the page. So you guys will be showing. So we're just going to remove everything and play all those videos, and we'll come back. All right. And that's how we're going to handle it. Then we'll have a conversation about it.
You can see this one, she gave birth here. Even this baby was given birth here. This baby was given, even this baby was given birth here. They couldn't even go for the immunization for these babies. And these babies are just outside. You can see the road, just behind the road they were staying here. All kinds of disease, cholera and rain will fall on them. Dust will fall on them, on these little kids. But I made it to myself, I'm going to take them to the clinic. I will take them to clinic to take their routine immunization, because you can't just leave them like this. Thank you, thank you.
Okay. Nara masini ba gomi. Abogo nerigi nye chintin wa go jan dua so stuli. Go nenum go nye chintin dua sa yasi wa go tuluin. Huh? Yo. Njim ka kola kile wana.
My queen, this is me and this is Borno State Director and one of our members. So we just finished seeing the people and it's so pathetic. Government just leave them there and they were lying that they are giving them food, giving them mosquitoes, even ordinary mosquito nets, they don't have. And these people that you can see under the bridge, they poo there, they pee there, they eat there, they sleep there. And when rain comes, it swept all the feces to them again and there's breakdown of cholera there. It's just God that will help us. Thank you, my queen. Thank you, madam. Thank you. Thank you. They need your assistance, please. They need their assistance. Buri ba. Allah sarki. This woman was saying for almost 3 days now, she couldn't eat. There's nothing to eat, and they are sleeping here. Mosquitoes, rain falls on them. So may Almighty God help us. Mananimiwa? Mananeya? Amin, amin. Wadanyana. Shual commander and Dero out. Kidoka binchi. Shiro ya buri. Mukon zero. Suma sama da yaran nan.
There's so many of these videos. I just showed you a little bit. These people are condemned to death. Do you hear what I'm saying to you? They are condemned. They will die. I talked to my national director. There is no food coming anywhere. There was some food given to them, rice. Billions of dollars given to the government. Rice that's moldy, that had been stored, that they should have given to them way before the flood. Then the flood damaged the food. Then you go and drag it out and give them. And they're moldy, they stink, they are not healthy. So if you have given them that and you assume that you fed them, that means that you expect them not to survive because you knew what you were giving them. They will not eat that, or if they do eat it out of desperation, they will die from it. What she's saying is that there is a sea of humanity with no food. One time they threw bread at them. If you're lucky, you cut the bread. It wasn't line up, everybody get the bread. No, we throw it. And if you're lucky, you catch one. If you're not lucky, you don't catch it. Some of those children haven't eaten for days. How long are they going to survive? we are condemning our people to death because of lack of action and empathy, because of greed. The reason why this is an important aspect, important topic when you're speaking of spirituality, you have to ask yourself, what kind of so-called God do you believe in? Do you think that this God has the power to see what you're doing? Do these people in government, Dibia Yudi and I talked about this earlier, where they throw money during weddings, money that belongs to the people. You throw it around, you're showing off you've got money. But in your community, people are dying of the simplest things. Babies being born. Of course, you can expect that babies are being born. But when babies are born, they have to have their shots. They haven't had their shots. There's cholera, there's malaria, there's also diphtheria, there's all sorts of things. You know those children are condemned to die. They're not going to survive that. Worse yet, they don't have food. Mothers don't have milk to give them because they themselves are not nourished. The flood may have killed 200, they claim 200. You know, you have camps with thousands of people in it swept away. So how are you going to tell us 200 people died? If you're going to lie, lie with dignity. They must think we're stupid. But then we as a people, we need to start paying attention when things happen to our people. When we accept it, it will continue to happen. I don't see the protestation right now about what's going on in Maiduguri. Yes, the world is giving money. To whom? Who's getting that money? Now the NGOs and the churches are acting as the government, because the government, what is the government doing? You cannot tell me that billions of dollars or naira cannot feed these people. You've got the money to feed them. At least feed them. If you can't build up their homes again for them, feed the people for God's sake. Where's the empathy there? Where's the spiritual empathy there? When you go to church and you go and confess, what are you confessing? Confessing God? What God are you asking for forgiveness? And what forgive you for the atrocity that you committed? We have government officials buying yachts. People come on yachts, millions in bonuses. And whole communities were washed away, have nothing to eat. They have nowhere to toilet. Here, the same catastrophe happened here, people. It happened here in America. Helene, the government, the president, vice president, everybody working together to ensure. As a matter of fact, everybody got $700 to start, just to start. $700 to go and buy personal items and all sorts of things. They're contacting everybody. You know, contact the government, get your money so that you can buy food, all those things. And then they're going to help them rebuild the government. This is responsible governance. Where are our president? Where's the president? Where's the vice president? Where's everybody? Yudi.
It runs deep.
Yudi.
The scorpion is chasing us all. And we've been running for that scorpion for quite some time now. And the moment we stop trying to save ourselves, that scorpion will catch up and it will sting. And you might more than likely die from that sting. This goes deep because what we see now, the lack of interest by the government, the wickedness, the lack of disunity, the lack of empathy, the lack of self-love, the lack of community love, which is really an essential part of economic and cultural revitalization of Africa. so that when we have situations like this, the government will feel a need to ensure the protection of its citizens, because we are all practicing self-love and community love, which right now is absent. It is lacking. For the most part, if you're spiritual back home in Nigeria, you're more interested in ensuring your pathway to the heavens when you die. Nobody is interested in experiencing that heaven while you're still here. We don't love each other. We don't love ourselves. The government doesn't love you. The private people don't love you. The same private people, citizenry, are also in government. That mentality is in government. That mentality is in the community. The lack of self-love is in the community. The lack of self or community love is in the government. Nobody cares about anybody. It's this way, this idea that success is bent on what it is that you own, the material things that you have. Your wealth does not lie with your people. The respect that you get from your people for doing good for them is not important. What is more important to you is how high the fence around your mansion is in the village, and how many people will come to your place to pay homage to you and crown you king. Even though you never earned it, the money and the house that you built and the walls around your mansion is ill-gotten money that belongs to the people. But you don't really care about the people, and the people don't really care that you don't care about them, even though they are suffering, because if they cared, you will not be in that position to put your boots on their throat. They would have gotten rid of you if they really cared. Some people say, well, you know, people are starving and they're too tired and they can't, you know, they're too busy trying to survive. Really? And what happens in the process of surviving, and let's say some wild animal confronts you? What are you going to do? You're going to fight? You're going to run? You could run, but the animal is designed to kill. And it will get you. It's faster, it will catch up, and it will kill you. Your chances of survival really is about you standing up and fighting, because there are some things you can't run from. And one of them is you can't run from yourself. You can't run from your demise. You can't run from the rot in the community. You can't run from the desperation that people are facing today. You can't run from the destruction of the economy. You can't run from the destruction of the economic system. You can't run from the destruction of educational system. You can't run from anything if you don't face it head on. This stuff has been going on for a long time, and what you see now, the suffering that you see now, is a result of this lack of attention to what's really going on in our psyche. This is where the problem is. It's not about the physical stuff. There's nobody running around there with chains. It's up here. We absolutely don't care about ourselves. We have been socialized into believing that individual success is what's paramount. Community opulence and development means nothing as long as you are in a position to have people look up to you as superior, economically speaking. That's all you care about. You got your mansions, but when you step out of your mansions, what do you see outside of your mansion? Suffering. Does that touch your heart? Do you care? You drive around in your Mercedes-Benz through the villages and everything and go into your mansion, and right outside of it, it's rotten. Outside of it, the floods has happened. Outside of it, the floods has carried the women and children and everybody away, and people are dead. People are starving. People are under the bridge. Cholera is rampant everywhere. People, you know, go to the bathroom in the same place. The rain comes, washes all that mixture, all that. I mean, sometimes when you think about it, your mind just about you just lose it. Thinking about the level of wickedness that abounds in Nigeria. And this is not just about the government. This is us being wicked to ourselves, because the government is a representation of who and what we are right now. But if we were right, the government that we have will not be the way it is. We are the problem. We are. Yes, I said it. It's not about blaming the government. Yeah, these people are criminals. It's not like we don't understand what's going on up there with the president and the Senate and the House of Assembly and the governors and all these criminals in powerful positions who don't care when the floods come and wash away the same people that are being treated like animals. A king without people to rule is not a king. And that's what you have in Nigeria. You have people parading around like kings, but they have nobody to rule. They have nobody to appreciate them for anything.
Got a lot of chiefs.
A lot of chiefs. Armed robber is a chief. The criminal is a chief. Anybody can be a chief. It's about the money now. We've been socialized to think that it's what's in your pocket that is important, as opposed to raising children that will become viable members of a society and help build it. We need the right leadership. I don't know how we're going to achieve that, because obviously negotiation has not worked. It has never worked. I don't know exactly how we're going to get to the point where we have the kind of leadership like we have in Abia State right now with our governor, where the leadership cares enough about the people to build the infrastructure that is necessary to minimize the effect of these floods, of natural disasters. You talked about the dam. If the government cared about the people, they would have done something about that dam. It wouldn't have prevented the flood, probably not, but it would have minimized the effect, the amount of water that flooded everywhere. But we don't love ourselves. And the government is a reflection of who and what we are. And until we look inward and stop thinking that the government is going to help us, we're in trouble. In the United States, there's community love here. When there are disasters, everybody comes together and makes sure that they minimize the suffering as much as possible. Not in Africa. Not in Africa. Thank God for organizations like OMSI and any other indigenous organization that actually cares about the people. I'm not talking about Red Cross that gives its executive all kinds of bonuses when there's a natural disaster and money is raised. Do not give your money to the Red Cross or any foreign entity that tells you that they are coming to do something in Africa. They are not. Haiti is an example. They're not doing anything. They will raise billions of dollars and give themselves raises. But if one disaster happens in Canada or in Britain or in Switzerland or even in Japan or China, bam, they're all over there. And they will actually do what they're supposed to do. Because those people experiencing the disasters are powerful countries with serious economic pool. And if they suspect that you're not being fair, that you're being criminal in your action, there's a price to pay. But not in Africa or the so-called third world country with its corrupt leadership. Who are you going to cry to? Who are you going to complain to? Who's going to have your back? Who's going to make sure that the money that was given is used for the purpose that it was intended? We are the problem. That's just how I see it. And it gets me so angry. And it just breaks my heart. We get phone calls all the time from Nigeria. Oh, we need money there. We need money there. Most of us are broke. That's all we spend our money doing. Half of our income goes to sending money back home. I have never experienced going back home. And when I get there and then somebody says, hey, come over, come and eat. As soon as I show up, they got their hands out. Give me this, give me that. I need to put my kid through school, blah, 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 blah. But if the society was designed and conditioned in such a way that we have self and community love, these same people would be in positions where they can help themselves with businesses, with jobs, with whatever that creates a legal income source for anybody. But we don't have that. So until we look inside of ourselves and understand that our leadership is a reflection of what and who we are and what we believe in as of this moment, we will never solve the larger problem, which is to get to the point where when we have these natural disasters, the government can come in, mitigate the suffering, minimize the level of suffering and death and diseases that abound right now. That's my take on it.
Thank you, thank you. And I just want to add this before I have Dibia Cheduzi make his comments. The Cameroonian government is going to open the floodgates of the Lagdo Dam. So this nightmare is just the beginning, because the dam on the Benue River is going to be open due to heavy rain that's fallen in Cameroon. So they have to do that around the dam catchment. This is in northern Cameroon. They are going to open that. So
are they going to move the people out before they do it?
Impacted. Well, what the government has done is advise the people that this is about to happen. They've been advised. The dam is about to open. This is in northern Cameroon, and they have to do it because they have a lot of rain around the dam catchment. So they must do that. Now, how many people are going to be impacted? Initially, they're saying that about 300 people in Nigeria had died, okay, because of the flood. But to me, it's the nonchalant way it's presented. You know this is coming. Now, what are you going to do about it?
Exactly.
And they're anticipating those Benue River are going to be impacted. So you're looking at, thus far, over 100,000 people have been misplaced, right? And then you're looking at possibly over 500,000 more. 100,000, then 500,000 more. So my question is, all right, we know what's coming down the pike. This is the time to galvanize the churches, galvanize the NGOs, galvanize local government, galvanize federal government, everybody, all hands on deck. That's not happening. Because it's not about just the flood, it's what happens after the flood that with those who, if they are fortunate enough to survive, what happens to them? What's in place? Which, if this is coming their way, is the government making it so that they know where to go to get away from it? Dibia Chedozie. Dibia Chedozie.
I am short of words. I don't know what to say, but I think Dibia Charger, you finished it all. The problem is us, the totality of Africa, because it seems like we have forgotten the meaning of Madu, the beauty of life.
It's true.
And the whole talk about Madu is about morals. And what is morals supposed to do? Morals is supposed to make us be proactive instead of being reactive. But once we have thrown morals overboard, what you have is the pursuit of materialism. And so we must know one thing. There is an international syndicacy against us.
Yes.
And that is why we don't choose our governments. Our governments are imposed on us. And when they impose themselves on us, they get foreign support. And the foreign support is that, let's not forget that there are organizations abroad who are sponsoring programs in Africa that are meant to cut short the population of Africa, because they say Africans are overpopulated.
Yes.
And part of the crisis we're experiencing in Africa is meant to promote famine, food shortage, poverty, and to eradicate as many numbers as possible. And so the The Boko Haram thing and the IDP camps in the north are part of the program, because as we are talking, we know that some of the food we buy from the north, that vegetables, tomatoes, and so on and so forth, if you buy these vegetables and fruits like pawpaw and other things, you throw their seeds into a fertile soil. They don't regrow. So that means the food that they are growing there are genetically modified food. So what they have done in Zimbabwe, what they have done in Uganda is what they want to do gradually in Nigeria. So the Boko Haram thing, the farmers, those who refuse to koto are killed. And that's meant to, and then the Boko Haram people, they get to the southeast. When they get to the southeast and part of the southwest, they put their cattle on planted fields. They eat up corns overnight. And then even the yam that you have harvested and put in your barn, Oba, they go there and break down these yams, cut the yams for their cows to eat. And if you challenge them, they kill the person. That is part of what led to the youths in the southeast to say this can no longer happen. And they started defending themselves. And it now became government versus the youths. That's what is happening in the youth in the southeast. And then the government blames all the violence in the east on the youths. But they were there and the people were being killed. In fact, there was a case where a group of herdsmen invaded a village, got a young girl of 16, 8 of them raped her. After raping her, hewed her into carcass. And even killed an old woman, got a pregnant woman killed, lacerated her stomach, and put the fetus and cut the neck. What did the forces do? And that's why some of the youth said this no longer happen. If our elders can no longer defend us, then we will rally around and defend ourselves. That is a crisis going on there. Those in the north don't have the population that those in the east has. That's what you see in the north. They are helpless. That's the scorpion you dreamt about. And your lonely self in the desert. They are lonely. They are left. So that was why under the past administration, even when the world gave some palliatives for COVID, and they said that those in the southeast have brothers and sisters abroad who are sending money down to them, that those in the southeast are rich.
Look at that.
Not even a grain of rice was sent there for palliative. And a lot of the palliative were left in the warehouses to get rotten, just like what happened in Maiduguri. The Maiduguri we are talking about, is it not where the vice president comes from?
Yeah.
And then there have been serious warnings and warnings that the walls of the dam is getting weak. There have been serious warning. And organizations have been warning until the rains came. And the rains piled pressure on the wall, and the walls capsized. And then there was the flood. And then again, that's part of we know in Nigeria, we must then educate ourselves, not only in Nigeria, in Africa. One, we don't have leaders. We must tell ourselves the truth. Two, the world is against us. And so we must build a sense of communalism, whether we like it or not. This sense of communalism must be taken down to Islam, must be taken down to Christianity. We must reactivate that sense of solidarity. We must tell ourselves the truth that we have to go out there and begin to rescue ourselves. Then we must tell ourselves the truth that if the government is not proactive, we should be proactive ourselves. So that if you see if you see a sign that danger is coming, we should begin to relocate even before the danger happens. Then we must begin to tell ourselves that we have to be our own brothers and sisters helpers. That's the only way we can to survive this onslaught, because it's an onslaught. Both international, it is international, and the international are getting the people who will help them prosecute their own agenda internally. It's just like what Fela sang about ITT. You get to one side and they use. They pick one African man with low mentality. They load him with $1 billion bread. And that one will pick another one who is lower in mentality than him or her, and then give that one $1 million or million naira or dollar bread. then that one will not pick another one who is lower in mentality. So at every stage, you'll find that the best don't govern Africa. It is a people of low mentality who are always empowered, and it's part of the international syndicacy. And that's why this man, Traore, in Burkina Faso, he said 3 things that Africans must fight if we must survive. So number 1 is fear. He said, because fear is you, it selfies you.
Thank you.
It allows you to operate. He said number 2 is cowardice. And then number 3 is incompetence. Because a coward will easily koto. Once you are consumed by fear, you become a coward. Once you're a coward, you promote incompetence.
Yeah. And you don't want to rock the boat.
An incompetent person does not want to see a competent person.
Yeah.
So all the line, we can develop. And then if development is that the right minds that are enlightened, who can see tomorrow, who can not only see tomorrow, but walk towards tomorrow. That's what brings about development. And that is one of the biblical verses that said, do not hide a light under a bushel. But in Africa, well-lit light are hidden under bushel. So, for instance, here, you'll find that our admission system is that you admit merit about merit. When you have 100% to admit, 40% is given to merit. Out of that 40%, only about 20 or 25% is merit. Then you have catchment. And that catchment is that if there are, say, for instance, philosophy, about 300 people applied for philosophy, University of Lagos. And we know, and there's these 300 people, only the 30. And then these 30, they are on the border of 95, 99, 95. And then the 30, when we get to 95, the 30 completes. Then we will leave 95, we will leave 94, we will leave 93, we will leave 92. Then if in catchment, the next person in catchment is 85, we'll go down to 85. Those between 95 and 86 are cut off. Then we now go to education less advantage. If the education less advantage is at 65, we will abandon those from maybe a catchment stop from 85 to 80. We will now leave those who scored from 79 and go down to 60. All those ones bungled. And tomorrow, those ones, and then after you finish that, other ones will made you. The president's list will come, governor's list will come, that list will come. At the end of the day, those who made first class don't end in government offices. It is those with pass and third class. And then you want the country to develop. That is why there's no proactivity, because the incompetent people are there, and the incompetent people cannot have vision of tomorrow. The incompetent are not concerned about morals. They are concerned about self-preservation. The incompetent people are thinking of how to perpetuate themselves in power in perpetuity. Yep. They are not thinking about the society. That is why there is anybody who is living in Nigeria, in Africa, is an endangered person. So the dream you had is typically what is happening in Africa. We are lonely people in the desert, either in the desert of the sea or the dry desert. And the scorpion is there waiting to sting, meaning at every second somebody falls dead. That's just the dream. And then the only way we can survive that is to reenact the spirit of communalism. We just have to.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. That's so on point. And for my part, I don't do talk. I'm not the kind of person who just talks. I believe in action. If there's something that can be done, I will attempt it, even if I fail at it. Okay? Because I'm always governed by my father's recommendation about how I should live my life. And that is, you don't have the right to die until you've made a difference. Never live anywhere unknown. What does that mean? What does that mean? Does it mean that I'm rich? No, it doesn't. But what it means is that I am rich mentally and spiritually, and I need to apply it. And once I apply it, I can change even one life. I can't change all lives. So if all of us all us people of faith, and it depends, it doesn't matter what your faith is. If we can look at our people and see humanity, see human beings, not the caricatures of humanity that has been painted in our minds, so when we see each other, whatever happens to us, we don't care. It's like pulling a teeth to ask some of us to just make a donation to help another African person. We come with a million excuses. I can't do it. I have this to do. I have to do. But when you think about it, it's not even about you. It's about, like you said, communal. If all of us will make a contribution, either financially, spiritually, in some manner or form, we can impact what's happening to our people. Because get ready for it. When the Lagdo, I think it's Lagdo, when that's opened up, and they have to open it because they're think about this, the Cameroon is thinking about their own people. That's why they have to open the dam. But unfortunately, our people are going to suffer. Who's telling that person way in the village by the Benue River? Who's telling him or her, you got to move? You have to get out of there. And if they get out of there, where they're going, who's going to support them? So they will stay. First of all, nobody's going to tell them. Is going to tell them. They're going to want to stay. They're going to become victims. Our people are victims of our governmental incompetence and lack of care, lack of integrity. And sometimes we need to stop being so afraid. We're all going to die someday. Don't die for nothing. Open your mouth and speak on behalf of the helpless. Many of the children that you saw in that video, they're going to die. They're not going to survive. One of the gentlemen there lost his wife. His wife and two daughters were swept away. So now he has two children. One of them has the gold hair because of malnutrition. He has nothing to feed that child. That child is going to die. Most of them are going to die. And that hasn't taught us anything. It hasn't galvanized us spiritually. We go to church, we praise, we sing, we say in the name of the Lord will take care of it. We put it in God's. Listen, people, if the Lord was going to take care of it, the flood wouldn't happen. Do you hear what I'm saying? God, Chineke has already told us what to do to prevent such things. Or if they do happen, what actions that we need to take? It's up to us. But to still leave it up to God, it has already happened. When does God, for those of you who call God, when does God start implementing his magic? Shouldn't it be before the catastrophe happens? Why is it always after? The mayhem has already happened. Because once Chineke gives you the wherewithal to make things happen positively on your behalf, then it's up to you to make sure it doesn't happen. You can't sit back and go and pray and say, leave it up to Chineke. The thing has already happened. If Chineke was going to prevent it, it wouldn't happen. But you
reverse it.
had the responsibility to do the work. You have breath, you have hands, you have a mind, you have eyes, you have ears. You have the responsibility. Going to church and praying for Chineke to intervene is a fool's errand. It's your responsibility. We know it's coming again. So now my question, my brothers, we know it's about to happen. I guess all of us have this sense of helplessness. What can we do? besides talk about it? What can we do? And my solution to everything is you eat an elephant one bite at a time. Find who you can help. Let your spirit move you. Don't leave your brothers and sisters behind. If you're fortunate to survive, then you have to look at those who did not survive and help them. Going to church is not the solution. Because what we do is we abdicate our responsibility to help in these situations by giving it up to Chineke to handle. The Lord will handle it. No, that's a cop out. That's when you don't want to know what to do, or you don't feel like you want to help, or you don't have any means, you think. But that's what I talk about. As opposed therefore, we need to go back to that collective thinking, that communal thinking. If we work together, we can solve problems. It's like here in America, you've got people running for high office spreading lies, purposefully spreading lies, creating confusion, so that those, and it's always those who are in need, are the victims. Now, some of us are satisfied to say the government is not doing what they're supposed to do. What about you? What do you do? When you see that homeless child, what do you do for a homeless child that you see obviously has been impacted by the flood? There's no mother, there's no father, there's no family, and that little baby is walking up and down. What do you do? What is your sense of responsibility? Do you find out whose child that belongs to? Do you take that child in? Do you ask somebody to please watch the child? What do we do as people of faith in situations like this? What do we do? For OMSI, we're taking in collections. For the for Chiism, Onyinye, we have Onyinye. The Onyinye program. Go to the website and read about the Onyinye and make your donation. But you see, the other problem that I see when anything that impacts us, we feel better giving our money to Red Cross, to Purple Heart, to Blue Cross Blue, whatever, whoever it is we're giving it to. But we're not comfortable giving it to ourselves. We're not comfortable giving to our own people. Anyway, I just want to pause a little bit and ask and explain what you see behind on my shelf, UD. If you pay attention, you see to the right, it will be to your, I suppose that will be to your left. You will see Ikenga. Do you see Ikenga? That's the second shelf.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you,
that's this one,
you see
yeah.
Ikenga? Then you see Kola. You see Kola not?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little difficult to really see much because I'm on my cell phone. I'm not on the computer. So, and if I try to see it, look at this. That's me right now trying to see a little bit more. Now I'm too close to the camera with my ugly face. So let me not abuse the audience. I'm going to pull back real slow.
What you do is expand your... You expand your screen. Can't you expand your screen? But anyway, just that's what's there. Then right behind, then in the middle, you have the chalk. You have the charger, and inside of it is the chalk. All these are symbols of Chiism. And then to the left, right behind me is the cup, libations cup.
Yeah.
And of course, you have the musical instruments, the mass, all of that. Those are, I put symbols of our spirituality there. Now, I want to ask each one of you a question. You told me what the scorpion means. Well, how does that apply to you? How does that apply to both of you?
Well, for me... Oh, okay, go ahead.
Well, the way it applies to me, being part of the teaching teachers here, you know, in the last administration, of which this particular administration is a continuation of the last one, the agenda was to break the people's spirit so that you can easily buy them, buy their votes. Hunger is a weapon that the current administration had decided to use. And you remember that time that we were on strike, we were not going to budge, and the government was not going. In fact, the past government vehemently refused to pay us our salaries. That was meant to break the spirit, and then they saw us as the last group that could stand and look them in the face and fight. So the thing there was to break our spirit. And within that period, a lot of us left. There was a mass exodus of teachers, experts away from Nigeria. People scampering, looking for greener pastures, looking for safe havens, and so on and so forth. So we had to go as low as making fixing our refrigerators, buying extra fridges with the little money we have, tying ice blocks, making sure we make enough ice blocks to sell to people so that the children could feed. We were not even talking about projects then. We were talking about how to feed the children. Where the school fee was difficult to pay, we were owing. And so this particular scenario, this dream that you had is exactly telling of the scenario we are facing here. And after that, I think a lot of us have sent their children abroad, and some of them abroad are entangled in situations that they cannot even imagine. Some cannot even complete the money for the program that their children are into. Some have been repatriated back, so the money that they spend going abroad and is a waste. So it's just that way you are alone, and we are finding a way of surviving. And that is to say, alone, if you like I said, if we fight it alone, then the scorpion will just get us one after the other, and we will be done for. But if we cooperate and develop the team spirit, we are likely to survive. So it boils down, the situation there is because those people are down low. No savings, nothing. Like I was caught off guard. It was the first time that kind of situation would catch me off guard. Because apart from just going home, I spent money trying to do projects. I borrowed money, and I came back. I was owing, and then my creditors were on my neck. So whatever little money I got, I was paying loan. It was difficult for me to maintain family. And all in all, I had to do that. If I didn't have a supporting wife, or the wife who understood, maybe she would have left that period. It was very harrowing. It's not something I should tell to friends when they ask me, but all of that, I had to put up a smiling face. And then my woman had just had to tell me, but my man, how come you are not broken? I said, I know the government wants to break our spirit, and I will not be broken. And it's not the first time I was facing that kind of situation. To get to where I am today, I faced so much daunting circumstances. And the only way I have fought it was to remain resilient, to think of ways I could get out of the bottom pit. And I've always gotten out of it. So we have to develop a resilient spirit and think of ways of managing the crisis. But it will be better if we do it using the principles of communalism individually, because I don't think I would have survived it if I didn't have some friends who will call and say, maybe that's why it's good to be nice, to be good, and do things you need to do. There were students who called from abroad and say, and I've forgotten about them. They graduated 10 years ago, 20 years ago. And they said, my teacher, how are you managing? I said, did you remember me? He said, look, I remember what you did for me. With the morals you gave me, I'm able to be where I am today. And said, please, can you send me my account? And I'm arguing with them. And then my wife said, please send it to my account. Before you know it, 100,000, 200,000. We're able to manage all of that and manage from scratch and rebuild ourselves. And it's just about now that one is stabilizing a bit. And so all I am thinking, because I know that kind of situation is still going to repeat itself. And so what we are doing is to fortify ourselves. But if you fortify yourself as a single individual, what about the larger community? Because even here in your university, if you stay on your door, if you don't in your office, if you don't lock your office, you see people pumping in. You see that they are needy. They need to be helped. If you move out on the street, you die on the street. I bet if you have 100,000 on you, before you drive from Lagos, from University of Lagos to Ikeja and back, you are going to spend the 100,000 naira. You will not know who you have dashed. Everybody is begging. That's the situation here. And so it's a very pathetic situation. And it's a situation whereby we have to talk to ourselves, and for the little we have to learn how to dip our hand and help those who are even worse situation than we do. That's the situation we find ourselves. So the scorpion is really pursuing every one of us, and we're in the desert. It's a question of whether we are close to the oasis or we are far away from the oasis in the desert.
Yeah, that's deep. For me, the scorpion represents.
Yudi, go ahead.
Yeah, to me, the scorpion represents what we're fighting against. Like, just as the more you fight physically, the more resources you put in, the effort, the length of time, the desert, the vast nature of it. And you have the scorpion behind you, the problem that you need to resolve. And the desert are the different issues that we've been tackling. And as you tackle it, it gets bigger. There's no end to it. 400 to 600 years of this nonsense, and there's no end. The desert are the different things that we have to tackle to get rid of the scorpion that is behind us, chasing us. It's a lot of effort. It's a lot of work. The work is vast. The problem is rather simple. Mentality. But to deal with this is a whole lot more work than to deal with the chains that you want to break off. You only got to hit the chain one time and it's broken. But this right here, culture, religion, economics, Pan-Africanism, foreign influence, foreign religion, Islam, Christianity, the idea that what happens to you in this world that we live in, it's not important. What happens to you is what happens to you after you die? What are you looking for? This heaven, the idea that the only thing that is left for you to do is to make sure that you make your way up to heaven after you die. Forget about what's going on in the world today. It is not important. Your suffering means nothing. You should smile, turn the other cheek. We had a conversation this morning about NGOs. And I was talking about the idea that we should not be fooled to think that every NGO means us good. Half the NGOs are foreign agencies who are founded to make sure that our condition never improves. Some of them show up there with medication that sterilize women. Dibechi Edozie had talked about it. Population control. Population control sometimes is intentional. Sometimes it's not intentional. When you talk about natural disasters, you talk about global warming and how our behavior has accelerated this warming. But I don't really sit around and worry a whole lot about a volcano that erupted and wiped out the whole village that was next to it. And then somebody convinces you that the reason why the volcano exploded and wiped out the village at the foot of the volcano is because the city at the foot of the volcano sinned And God decided to punish them by making the volcano erupt, were fed such idiotic, stupid stories as opposed to being real and saying, listen, we all know that the volcano is part of God's creation, and the volcano serves a purpose. And that purpose is the continuing, or should I say, the continuous expansion of the earth, of land, creating islands. Whatever purpose that the volcano serves is natural. It comes from the earth's core, molten lava. It is nature. God made it for a purpose. And if you decided to settle next to that volcano and it blows up and you end up dead, it has nothing to do with God punishing you for your sins. It has to do with the fact that you were stupid enough to settle at the foot of the volcano instead of settling 20 miles away or 30 miles away. But your ignorance of not understanding the purpose of that volcano, because you ascribe spiritual attributes to its existence as opposed to science. If you misidentify religion, you could live your life a very ignorant human being. You will be very ignorant. The enormity of the problem that faces Africa is the desert. The scorpion chasing us is the instrument used against us for our destruction, whether it's the NGOs, whether it's the West that wants to capitalize on our demise, keep us confused, keep us in squalor, keep us violent against one another, minimize and reduce the population in Africa. We spend so much time trying to survive. There's no African country that can defend itself against foreign aggression. Any foreign country, any Western country, including Russia, India, Japan, China, you name it, any one of them can take over any country in Africa, except maybe for South Africa. That's how ill-prepared we are. That's how ill-prepared we've been. This idea that the foreign governments and all these people are going to help us if we bring in the what do you call it, the Red Crosses and all these, World Health Organizations and all these organizations that are supposed to come and help us out, when those organizations are not doing anything that we're not capable of doing for ourselves. Where we have been socialized and colonized in such a way that we believe that everything about us is inferior and everything outside us is superior. So if we planted rice in Nigeria, Nigerians won't buy the Nigerian rice. We want to buy the foreign one that is probably going to kill you from China. We can produce soap, but you want to buy the soap that comes from abroad. We can produce beer, but you want to buy some Heineken. You forget that if you buy the local beer, it's good for the economy. People are employed. Businesses grow. Distributors everywhere. But you want to import the foreign beer and sell it and then dummy the local beer production. How does importing beer from Germany add to the economy? Except for on the distribution level. It comes in, you clear it from the wharf, you bring it to the store, you sell it to the hotel, that's it. But what about the manufacturing of the beer? What about the packaging? What about all the jobs that are involved in the genesis of beer production? All those things are lost. The educational system in Africa takes away communal responsibility from every one of us. Makes us feel that somebody else is supposed to take care of it, that we have no responsibility to ourselves. Then we get into this materialistic way of looking at the world. Being an upright member of the society is not about raising a cohesive family with children that become productive. It now becomes an if you own a Rolls Royce, if you own a BMW, if you got a Ferrari. And if you have a Ferrari, how many Ferraris do you have? How big is your house? And sometimes we get into this thing about you got to put up this mansion in the village when you're abroad, but you don't live there. You just wasted it. You could have put that money building up a school and just build you something that when you're in the village, you have a place to stay. You still got your land. Africa needs economic and cultural revitalization, and that includes cultural consistency. This is Pan-African way of thinking. Environmental love, educational excellence, community empowerment, and economic development. We have to start to, how do you say, deal with these things for us to end up with a kind of leadership that is responsible for its citizens, for those people that they are charged to protect. Right now, in all of Africa, this is just not a Nigerian thing. Maybe it's changing up in Niger, in Burkina Faso, in Mali. But this self-love, this idea that we can't solve our own problems, this idea that we need intervention, this idea that we don't have enough scientists, enough medical doctors, enough economists, enough engineers, this idea that we don't have enough of anything for our development. The idea that we've come to the point where Africa's brain drain is one of its biggest demise. Some of the smartest people are living abroad, helping develop other countries and other societies. We have mayors in Europe that are Nigerians. We have a Nigerian right now that owns the Gatwick Airport and some other airports in Europe. We do big things. I think we have a mayor in Ireland. Some of the smartest doctors in the world are from Nigeria. Nigeria produces more graduates than any other country in the world. We're everywhere outside where we're supposed to be. Then to make matters worse, we now go to church every Sunday and our so-called mosques, bowing 5 times a day, praying to an Arab God, praying to a foreign entity, praying to the same religions that justified our colonization and enslavement in the first place. Mind walking is our operandi, our modus operandi. Just mind walk, your mind just walks out on you. You see no value in yourself as a black man and woman. You see no value in your history. You see no value in your educational systems. You see no value in your primordial core as an African, but every other nation in this world see value in themselves except for the black man and black woman, except for the African. Whether you live in South America, whether you live in the United States, whether you're on the continent, you live in Europe, you see no value in yourself as an African, and you don't believe that you contributed anything to civilized behavior. And the reason why we think that way is because our mind has been polluted with foreign religion. When your God, when your Chineke, when the creator that you worship does not look like you, and yet you believe that you are in God's image, you got a problem. Believing in God's image is a spiritual thing. It's not physical. But we live in the real world where we've translated that to physical characteristics. And it's been that way since the dawn of history. Cultures associate themselves based on their geography. Their approach to God worship varies because of your environment. That's how cultures develop, and cultures develop through primordial religion. All human systems are products of religion. And if you want to develop in Africa or anywhere in the world, and you don't pay attention to your traditional spiritual core, you got a problem. Because all those things that kept us cohesive before the European and the Arab came to our shores with the Bible and the Quran in tow is lost. Before they came, did we have jails in Africa? No, we didn't. But we have certain cultural beliefs, spiritual belief systems that made sure that human behavior was monitored and controlled to a certain extent, because you need a certain level of control of human behavior for you to have a government that is not a free-for-all. Our educational system, how did we cure diseases before the European and the Arab came to Africa? How did we live? Do we have a right to evolve our way of life just like everybody else has? Or do we, or are we truncated, bastardized, accused of all manner of inhuman and primitive behavior? And then forgetting that every culture in this world evolved. The Vikings, human sacrifice was part of their spirituality. And yet, when you talk about human sacrifice, you look at Africans and you act as if Africans did anything in ancient times that nobody else did. What about the Aztecs and the Mayans? What about them?
So what are we going to do now? What are we going to do?
What we're going to do is what we're doing right now. And when we're doing it, and we're talking about all these things, we must have the right narrative. There's some narrative that cannot be left out of the efforts to help our people. They must understand what is happening to them, not from the physical suffering, not from the rain and the flood that they are suffering from and the cholera that they are suffering from, but they need to understand why they're in the position in the first place. And it's not just solely because of the floods. When we start to message the right way and continue efforts like OMSI and any other NGO that is African, and create an environment where we have a little bit of trust in us to help ourselves. Because like Dozie has said, nobody's going to help us. It's a concerted effort to destroy the African, the continent, to control us, to have access to our resources while leaving a few pigeons behind to do their bidding. So we have to continue to support our own effort. Africans, trying to help Africans. We can only solve our problems ourselves. We must look inwards. We are the only solution to our problems. And we should stop trying to find help from outside and just keep the work. This program, everything that we're doing, the NGOs that are African.
Very good. Very good.
That's what we need to do. We need to look at ourselves and stop looking at anybody else to do anything, because nobody cares to do anything for us.
Very good. Very, very true. So what we need to do then is look around us, right, in Africa, if we're not going to depend, and we must, you're right, we must not depend on the outside world. Even though they all seem to be generous, they still have their own motives. So what organizations can African people, and that's what we must all research, what organizations operating there should we support?
Can I say something?
Like you did say, one of the biggest problems, just a minute, we don't trust our own organizations. So we ignore them, we ignore the African organizations in favor of the foreign nation doing the same thing. So we need to volunteer our time to those organizations in Nigeria that are Nigerian and give the resources to them to work with. And also the Nigerians in Nigeria should not sit back and look outside of Nigeria. They actually need to do their own research and find out what organizations are functioning already in Nigeria that we can all participate in. That brings up the whole idea of donating, contributing to relief funds. Who is it that we need? What nonprofit organizations? You said it. OMSI is working in Nigeria.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you the very truth. It is so difficult because we don't trust our own people. It is so difficult to get. And so you find yourself going in your own pocket. All right. If you ask the foreign entities to give it to the nonprofits. The nonprofits have to have one of their own in there. You see, so trying to help your own people in disaster resolution and in programming for disasters is very difficult because they don't trust you. Unfortunately,
your audio is a little messed up. It keeps cutting off and freezing.
some of us, even in the government,
Your audio is having issues.
you know,
Can you hear me?
You give them the money, they don't use it for disasters that will happen in spite of the prayers that everybody just waste their time doing. You know, I don't say we shouldn't pray, but there's so much time spent praying that there's very limited time spent preparing to ask questions. If this happens, then what? If this happens, who's responsible? Who can we go to? You know, we're not doing that. We need to get in the habit of using our social media. We need to, what we're doing is a form of meetings, but we need to invite more, you know, so that we can start educating others. What we're doing here is educating people to understand what's going on. And it's all part of our mind.
Your audio is it's wanting right now. I just want to say something while she's trying to get herself together. You know, sometimes I see too many hands spoil the broth. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Too many people in the kitchen.
Let me say this to you. They are scrambling. Just a minute. My screen is being scrambled. So I'm not able to actually engage both of you. So what I'm going to recommend is that both of the rest of the show. I can't do it anymore because you can't hear me. It's just scrambling, and
yeah, she's having
I'm going to pull myself out, and Yudi, you speak, then you hand over to
Okay, we got you because you're cutting off right now, so it's kind of making the show weird.
Go for it.
Yeah. So I just like I was saying before. Yeah, I can hear you. Then I can't hear. You know, it's just intermittent. Yeah. So too many hands in the pot can ruin the soup. I think that what we really need in Africa, you have to start from the top and then go all the way to the bottom in this particular situation. In sub-Saharan Africa, this is where education and having the right conversation comes into play. And I keep saying that all the time. It's not about send money. It's about understanding why you're behind is where it is right now. My sister, OKDB, always says to me, whatever you're behind finds itself. It is your mind that put it there. We've got to the point now where we can't sit here blaming anybody else but ourselves because we have all the resources and the so-called independence that we have earned from our colonial masters to start thinking independently. I think there should be, for Africa, an umbrella organization. And under that umbrella organization, as far as disaster mitigation is concerned, under the umbrella organization, like an OAU, but this is an NGO, then every country should also have one organization that represents it. And that organization can have branches everywhere. So that way, if something happens in Africa, it doesn't matter where it happens, we, as Africans, can go in there and solve the problem. And by having an umbrella organization, you can coordinate everything. But there has to be that conversation about how did we get here in the first place? And that is a conversation that is never talked about when we have these disasters or when we're trying to raise funds to mitigate the problem. Because when people understand their stake, how they got there in the first place, they're more likely to take it a lot more seriously and look at themselves as part of the problem. I mean, a part of the solution. We cannot have these conversations without talking about the spiritual part of things, Pan-African thinking, and all those things that are necessary for us to be able to get ourselves together, have the same mindset to solve our own problems. Because we are the ones that will solve it. Nobody else can do it for us, but it's all here. How do we see ourselves as Africans? Do we understand what's going on in the world and how the world looks at us? Do we know what plans the world has for Africans and our resources? And I'm not talking about, do we know these things from the governmental point of view? Do we as citizens understand what we're up against? I submit to you that we don't. We think the problem is the government. Our problem is not the government. And I use this analogy all the time. If you have a fever and you're shaking and you have high temperature and body aches and you got a headache, is your problem the headache and the fever? Or is your problem the reason why you have the headache and the fever? And if you're going to deal with it, how do you deal with it? Is your problem the mosquito? Is your problem the parasite? Is your problem the fever? All three are your problems. But it didn't start with the fever. Neither did it start with the parasite. It started with the mosquito. And you have a lot of mosquitoes because your environment breeds mosquitoes. And I'm not talking about your environment in the jungle, in the bush, or even in the village, where for the most part, the waters run, but you still have mosquitoes everywhere. In the cities, water, standing water, breeds mosquitoes. Those environmental things that you could do to minimize the breeding of mosquitoes everywhere will minimize the transmission of the parasite. And if you minimize the transmission of the parasite, you will minimize outbreak of malaria. And if you have good medical facilities and you have malaria, you can save somebody's life just like that without leaving it up to anything else other than the fact that you have the infrastructure to mediate those people that were unfortunate enough to catch malaria. You could fix it. Same thing goes with how we got here in the first place. Are we going to talk about our condition in Africa without talking about colonization? Are we going to talk about colonization without talking about religion? Do we think that colonization was merely physical? Do we think that that the main purpose of colonization was not the mind, taking over your mind? Because after the chains are gone, if your mind is colonized, you're always going to serve the purpose of your colonizer. And in this case, is the dumbing down of Africa's population and access to our resources. And I'm not making it up. Look at Niger and Burkina Faso. Getting rid of the French. Why did they do it? Because the French had their hands all over their resources. And so they had to do something. They understood they had to do something. And in their situation, they understood that they could not negotiate themselves out of their bondage. They had to take it. They had to rise up by any means necessary. It is their land. It is their country. They have a right to defend it. By any means necessary is necessary in Africa for Africans. to rise up, to change the society, to change our educational system so that we can learn how the world works and understand how we got here in the first place and understand what it means to be a Pan-African thinker and understand all the things that are necessary for cultural and economic revitalization. Education is key. We have to have these conversations. Just raising money means nothing if you don't understand why you're raising it, why your condition is what it is. If you don't understand how you got here in the first place, all the money you raise is meaningless because you will never be able to create an environment that minimizes the population of the mosquito, that minimizes the spread of the parasite, that reduces malaria outbreak. It is true education. It is true an understanding and incessant programming or deprogramming or reprogramming of the African mind, because for 400 years or more, our mind was reprogrammed from being African and being a Pan-African in the way we think, to start thinking that we can find water if all we have to do is just go to the desert, as opposed to going into the jungle where there are lots of lakes and all that. But we wander around in the desert expecting rain. That is the life of the African. We perambulate forever. So my thing is, we need a central organization that is interested in helping Africans when we have disasters. And it has to be coordinated. First, from a continental perspective, then through the countries, and then down to the states for countries that have that, and down to the cities and whatever. But somehow, all these organizations have to be part of a central organization that runs everything honestly, so that we could keep track of our progress. Otherwise, you will have too many people running around here claiming, without anybody looking into their business, that they're raising money to help folks, but really they're raising it to put that money in their pocket. And that includes Muslim organizations. It includes a whole lot of Christian organizations. And the only traditional organization that I know that is doing anything is OMSI through CHISM. That's it. I don't see any other traditional organization in Africa that is out here really trying to help people with these flooding and natural disasters and medical help and all that. All you see are Africans with their NGOs through some religion or some foreign church or something trying to help. And for the most part, all that money goes into their coffers and really doesn't help anything. I mean, look at Africa. How many people look like they've received any kind of help from anybody? That's all I got to say. What do you say, Dibeche Dozie?
Yeah, in addition to what you've said, as we approach the matter from top to bottom, we should also, I think we should adopt a double-barrel approach. A double-barrel approach of top to bottom and bottom up. That is to say, those who are in the diaspora could be coordinating with some people down, and then those home should also coordinate to meet those in the diaspora at the middle point. Now, because why do I say this? I take, for example, from the title, Rising from the Waters, my community could have been wiped out. In fact, I could have sent you distress message that my community has been wiped out because there was really an invasion of my community. I know because a lot of us are abroad, we have only very the weak old men and women there. So, but we had to rally around. 2 communities surrounding my community had already been displaced. One in Anambra, that's in Ihite, and then the other in Imo State, Umuawa. Now, these people had come in, and my community was being invaded. So what did we do? We said we were not going to run from our community. And so we have to reenact our own ancient being. And what did we do? We brought out the offer that rallies us around. Everybody met. And anybody that had money, we started throwing in money. So we raised the vigilante group. And we say we should apply to government. We say government is not protecting, rather government is aiding.
Yeah.
So what did we do? We had to rally around, and so we brought in mercenaries. The mercenaries became problems. They started intimidating people, even aiding and driving our people out of the community so that they can take over that community, since they have found out that the community is sitting on gas and oil and other minerals.
Look at that.
So what happened in Ibadan, around Ibadan area, will have happened in my area, because it was when we organized ourselves and then got those youths that they were using. I got a few handful of them and brought in spies, and then they penetrated those that were in the community that they were using, some of who were outlaws, and we started battle and gunshots. Some of them were killed. Some of them we discovered, we caught about 10 of them. Each one of them had nothing less than 9 million in their accounts. How did they have that? And none of them was more than 25 years old. So you see, if we were waiting from help from the top, we wouldn't have been able to do that. So why were we able to do that? And that's where I said, look, we should sell one idea, that idea of communalism. The Southeasterners, no matter how bad people think we are, we still keep that communalistic spirit.
Yes.
Wherever we are, we live in communities. We
Absolutely.
have meetings. As small as my community is in Alibo, in Lagos, anywhere, even though we are not more than 2, anywhere in this country, in the world, we meet. And we communicate with those other bigger bodies. They contribute, even though it's 500 naira per month, they contribute it. At the end of the year, it's 12,000 naira from that part. We assemble it to a particular pool. So we have savings for eventualities. So it was not difficult for us to bring out money and fund our vigilante. And then some of us who are donating 50,000 naira per month, those who could do 300,000 naira per month, those who could do 500,000 naira per month, those who could do 1 million naira per month. So it was a volunteer thing.
Yeah.
We went in, and when we formed our own vigilante group, and our vigilante group went, and then after conquering the invaders, went and helped Ihite, because we realized that if Ihite is in danger, we're in danger. So the neighboring communities, we went and empowered and trained their vigilante. And as a joint effort, we drove out the invaders. And in the process of driving invaders, we discovered that some of them were foreigners from Mali, that mercenaries brought from Mali. Some were government agents. Some were agents within. Yeah. And then we started sending money to buy food for those in village. And so my village became a place that just in September here, everybody could converge in the village to do Iriji in September. All right, it's safe to go. And we are replicating, that kind of a thing has been replicated from community to community all over the places. That is why you'll find that the IDP case is not prominent in the Southeast. It is community effort.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's community effort. And so why the IDP is not common in the Southeast is a community effort of the people. And that's because we are always holding this, what they call us parako. You know, the Yoruba say we do parako. Wherever we are, we meet. And when we meet, we give ourselves tasks. We are always proactive. We are always contributing money for security, money for light. Like now, there's security in the village. We are contributing money to do solar all over the places, to do gate in certain places. We are not stopping. Our primary school rooftop was blown up. We rebuilt it. We are even building more blocks. We are more classrooms, And then we ensure that you must have a home. For people like me, I can't say this come and build for me, but there are those we help to build even those one-room self-contained. It has its parlor, it has its compound. We make sure that the least person, nobody is aloof in the village. We must give you a place to live in. For people like me, it's if I want to begin to look for mansion, but I can afford a 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom flat and put it there.
Yeah.
I fence my compound round. Is that when the children have money, if they want to come and build mansion, they can build mansion.
Exactly.
So that's why I was talking about the communalistic spirit.
Yeah.
Without that communalistic spirit, the Southeasterners wouldn't have survived the aftermath of Civil War, the Igbo apprenticeship scheme.
Yeah.
I come to Robani. Like we have always repeated in this program. If you pop it on one leg, is on one leg. So we should ignite this kind of spirit. The other people crying should come to those who have found a way. How do you leave this community kind of spirit?
Yeah.
That's the only thing that can make us survive. If not, IDP camp will have been worse in the east than in the north.
Yeah.
So as we are coming from that top for coordination, international coordination, we should also come from the bottom, communities helping themselves.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Right? Communities helping themselves. And so that's why I say we should take that spirit down to culture. It is not church that's going to do it, because church is standing aloof.
Absolutely.
It's not that's going to do it, it's standing aloof. It is the community spirit of the people. It's in the culture of the people.
He said,
it's not in Islam. It's not in Christianity.
He said,
Christianity, they are here for profit, whether they are Orthodox churches or Catholic church or individual Protestant churches. They are in business.
Yep, that's what it is.
That's not the problem. The Muslims are looking for Christian. The Muslims are competing with the Christians. So what will solve our problem is our own ancient communalistic spirit.
Absolutely.
That's it. Once we can do that, then we can build from bottom top and top to bottom. And once we are able to do that, then we will take our lives into our hands. And once we are coming from the community team spirit, then we produce what we eat. What we do not produce does not exist.
Yeah, exactly.
What we do not produce does not exist. If we cannot produce television, well, we send our children to learn how to build television. What they build for us is what we use. That's how
exactly.
Because I remember as of 1989, I was having an argument. I was in year 3 in the university. Myself and one of my friends, Sam Chuks and Waru, were arguing who was more developed between Nigeria and India. He said Nigeria was more developed, and I said, what was his indices? He said by 1974, Nigeria was already using television, color television. As of 1989, India was still using a white and black. And I asked him, does India have a reason for still using black and white television, not color television? So I said, I shouldn't mind those austere people. I said, how are they austere? They said, until they produce a machine that can transmit in color, they will not use color television. And I told my friend, those are the people who are developing.
Thank you.
We are not developing, we are consuming.
We are consumers. That's what we are.
So he said that I don't understand development. I said, okay, Sam Chuks, what year? We said 1989. I said, let us give ourselves at most 10 years. By 1999, we will go to India and import television, color television. He said it won't happen. I said, but let me shock you the more. He said, what? I said, in exactly 5 years, my spirit tells me that India has laid his hand on that formula for that machine. They will produce it in less than 5 years. And before 10 years, whatever the Indians discover, they will produce it at cheaper rate.
And you will be buying it.
And we will be buying it. By 1994, India came out with a test code. The test code was general. It was transmitting in color, producing things in color, transmitting in color, producing films in color, all things in color, test code. And it came cheaper than any other, even more than what Japan had introduced.
Yeah.
By 1996, test code was in Nigeria. And I called my friend, Sachus. He asked me, say, he said, how far with that discussion? He was just laughing. He said, me, Seth, who tells me all this? I said, it's common sense.
It's common sense.
It's common sense. Development is not what you use. Development is what you produce.
It's what you produce, and you have to have the right mindset to understand.
So the IDP something would have been worse in the Southeast because the Southeast was invaded. Just like it was invaded. Community team spirit and the youth teaming together, home and abroad, and said no, it won't happen. If not, it would have been worse in the South.
Okay, this is fantastic. You guys are just making some really powerful commentary here. Now, I just want us to end on this note. This is so important. People, you're coming here and you're hearing all that we're saying. It's not necessarily that you don't have the common sense to know that what we're saying makes sense. This is the direction we should be going. My concern is that even though we understand that communalism is the way to go really for Africa, because that's our tradition, that's the way we operate. We are moving away from that so that when we have a problem, we don't know how to solve it. We don't realize that just coming together like we did in the past will help us solve this problem. We've got floods, we've got fires, we've got famine, we've got everything. And they get worse as the years get worse in Nigeria in particular. None of those things have been solved. So now we have this really, really tragic flooding that's happening, and still there's nothing in place that I can tell. I mean, I read a lot of suggestions that they've written, the government has written, all the big words and all of that. That's all jolly well and good. But I'm concerned about the common man, the man in the village, the woman who's pregnant, the children at play. They're going to be hit by a flood. And I'm trying to find where has the government made the effort to prevent these people during their course of living just dying like that, being swept away. And it's not just about people getting swept away. It's also about the decaying bodies, what's happening to those, they're not being buried, all right? We are certainly not doing any dredging to find them. If we're doing that, then that's a wonderful thing. But Chiedozie, you're there. Are they dredging? What are they doing about decomposing bodies? The diseases that are going to become common, you know. But mosquitoes are just having a field day because of the flood water, and when it recedes, you know, it becomes stagnant water. So if the flooding doesn't kill the people, the diseases kill them. If the diseases don't kill the people, then starvation kills them. If that doesn't happen, I mean, it's just once these calamities happen, it's just a cascading problems that kill, that take lives. And as long as our government has not set up anything, then, you know, it goes beyond the flooding. So my question is, us as a people, what are the basic things we can start doing? You talked about what you're doing in the village, how you guys are working together. That's wonderful. I'm talking about the flooding, which is the topic of today. How do we get our government to do the right thing? Where do we start? Do we start through, is there a letter writing campaign? Is there communication with the local government and the federal government? How do we citizens get them to start paying attention to these kinds of things, these calamities that are coming? Are they going to listen to us? What is it that we as citizens must do? Because we can't keep putting it in their hands to do, because they're not going to do it. Obviously, we all know that. The conversation that we're having shows Eugene is impassioned about the fact that we need to use our minds and all. Yes, but these people, just like Dibia Chiedozie said earlier, the people who are in charge are people of low mental acuity. They don't know anything. Okay, the stupidest one brings this stupid one, and it goes on and on and on. Next thing you know, the government is saturated with people who don't know anything. So here we are. Here we are. We've got floods. We've got all these. Okay, the flood is one thing. Then the diseases is another thing. Then there's the hunger. There's all of these things. Where do we start making a difference? We know the problem. We know the problems. You guys have said it to the T. You got it right. But the problem that I see with our people is that not the knowledge of what's wrong is not being. The reality of it is we know what's wrong, but we're not doing anything about it. I don't see what we're doing. Even though we know what we should do, we're not doing anything. We're saying the government, the government, the government. Okay, all right, we know it. The government don't do what they're supposed to do. Now, what does the common man do? What do we do to help? In what little way? What little way? You see, one person, you, UD, me, Dibia Chendozi, you, Dibia Chendozi, myself, and a few other people, we can make a difference. People coming together, coming up with an idea of what to do in situations like this. We are doing our educational component, which is Chism Live. Beyond that, what should the ordinary man do today to help alleviate what's going on? The problem is there. We know what the problem is. But where do we go from here? This is what always gets me. Where do we go from here? We know the problems. Now what? Now, when that young lady came to me, when she wrote me that letter, I didn't say she needs 25,000. I didn't sit back and say, nah, there's too much money. I went into action. And the young woman who was told about it initially, to this day, she has raised almost $6,000 because the village came together and said, we're not going to let this girl get kicked out. We have to do something. So we started pulling the resources. And now she's going to, by God's grace, she'll have the money. But now I showed you videos of people who are dying. They are dying. I mean, that's just a given. They will. These people are not going to survive. What can we do? What must we do? For those who are there listening, do you have a recommendation? Write it here, post it here for us. We're sharing with you what all the problems are. We know what the problems are. We'll share that with you. Now, what do you recommend that we can do, knowing what's coming down the pipe? It's not going to end. It didn't end with what just happened. There's more coming. There's diseases. There are all kinds of stuff. What can the common man do? That is the question. One of my recommendations, and I'll let you guys, we only have 2 minutes. I'm just going to say this. Every one of us belong to some kind of organization. Share the knowledge. Share the knowledge. Ask the pastors, if you're involved in a church, ask the pastors to talk to the congregation about what's going on so they are aware, so that they're not focused on going to heaven. They're not focused on their own selfish needs. They must see that the communities are part of their responsibility. What can they do? What can we do? If you run a business and you have people in your business organization, what can you say to them? What can they do? In other words, all hands on deck. What do we do in a situation where our people are dying and we have been blessed? We're living here. Okay, we're away, or some of us are not within the area of the tragedy. What do we do? That's the question that we must answer. And I'm going to ask Udi. We only have maybe 2 minutes. I need you 1 minute for you. Give us.
Yeah, for me, it's really
let me finish.
Having the right conversation, re-educating. How did we get here in the first place? What's your state?
Are you guys hearing me? Are you hearing me?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay, so I'm just before you speak, I'm just letting you know, please, I need you to tell those people who are listening what they should do to participate in helping with this problem. Tell them what to do. Tell them.
There's a saying that goes, heaven helps those who help themselves. Only you can solve your problem. Nobody can do it for us. We have to take the responsibility of understanding how we got here in the first place and what are the different reasons why we ended up here where the government can't seem to help people when there's a disaster or when there's a national emergency. It is easy for foreign groups to come into Africa and do whatever it is that they want. The idea that we don't have any responsibility to ourselves and anything that has to do with having a good life is spiritual, but it's only spiritual after you die. You have no responsibility to take care of your neighbor while you're here. We are responsible for ourselves. We have to look at ourselves as the reason why we're in the problem in the first place. And the only people that can get us out of here is ourselves. You have to look inward. You have to understand why you got here, and for crying out loud, understand that you are just as valuable as anybody else in any other culture because you're God's creation. If you don't solve your own problem, nobody is going to do it for you. And the reason why they won't do it for you is because they have no stake in helping you. The more you're downtrodden, the more the benefit from your misery. We have to get people to understand that. If they understand that and we share these videos, we're going to be all right down the line.
Thank you. Excellent. Dibia Chedozia, your closing remarks.
Yeah, my closing remark is that we must realize that all the religions and spirituality said we human beings are made in the image of God.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what does that mean? God, in any language, in any spirituality, is the only entity that brought itself into being and projected, transcended, and is always transcending. And if we are made in the image of God, it means we can alter situations. So the real human being is the one that is always able to alter its negative situation to the positive. I don't expect that those who are downtrodden will lose all the morals and lose all hope and manage themselves only within that state. We must begin to teach people to become humans. Humans in the sense that when you are down, you must think of the way up. When you think of the way up, that is the only way that a little drop of water, you can use it and alter your situation. If not, you will remain in perpetuity depending on AIDS. That's my message for those in the IDP camp and those who are going to be flooded. Always think ahead. Just know that you don't have a government. Think of a way of surmounting the situation. You will be able to do so. If you pursue that vision, God will show you the vision of how to maneuver, and you will maneuver through. The only human being that perishes is the one without a vision. Because in my language, one with vision and mission does not despair. Must succeed.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Dibia. You did fantastic. Thank you, Dibia Chedozia. You guys did a marvelous job today. My lasting words, you ladies and gentlemen, you've heard the Dibias. They've given you their thoughts. It's not enough to come and hear and listen and walk away. You have to make a note. What did they say? What is it I can use? How can I impact the well-being of my community, myself and my community, based on what you heard today? So don't come and walk away. You have a problem, and that problem is that your people are going to die for lack of action, not just by your government, but by ourselves as well. We are responsible for the good in our communities, for the bad in our communities. You can't talk about what other people are doing when you're not doing anything to help. So if you have family in Nigeria, find out where they're situated. If you find that they are in the eye of the storm, do what you can to get them out of there. If being there is going to cost them their lives, they may not have the sense to come out, and they may not have the wherewithal to come out. If you can help them, help them. Start thinking in terms of being a part of the solution. Don't turn your backs and wait around. You know your family are in the Benue River area. You know the flood is coming. Are you listening? Are you paying attention? Are you going to be helping them? Are you talking them out of staying where they are? Is there anything you can do? We can do for those who can't do for themselves. If you have any stake in Nigeria, if you have any family members in the eye of the storm, please, please contact them. Do whatever you can to get them out of harm's way. And if you know those people who have been impacted and you can do something, please find organizations that are working in Africa. The African Women Mobilization Commission, we are working. Go to OMC Global, that's awmcglobal.org, and you can make a donation. We always show what we're doing. We don't hide it. We show what it is we're doing with the funds that we get. So find organizations that are doing something there. Support them. Don't talk about it, be about it. This is what Chiism is about. We talk and we do. And so we are putting that on your head as well. Do. Don't talk, do. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us. Thank you, Dibia Chedozie. Thank you, Dibia Yudi, for all your wonderful, wonderful conversation today. You've been so helpful. And the rest of you, I just want to thank some of the individuals who tuned in. DOCC said, I just want to reach out, just read what he wrote. And before we leave, he says, one solution is reach out to the wealthiest philanthropists in immediate area. They must be shown that the people are the greatest resource and providing help is a tax write-off. Hate to say it. Yes, it's true. Reach out. That's the thing. Be a part of it. Be a part of the solution. Thank you, Wokede, Charles Ugochukwu. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you, Akimigro, for joining us today as well. Thank you for JOST for joining us. For those of you who I didn't mention, given the time constraints, we're going to have to go. And thank you for joining us. Hopefully, you'll join us next time. Next Sunday, we're not going to have Chiism Live. We are going to have all the different DBS are going to have their own thoughts that they want to share with you, and that will be posted in YouTube as well as Global Faith Ministries of Chiism. You can hear their thoughts. And so the next meeting we're going to have will be, the next Chiism Live will be 2 weeks from today. But next week, please look out for all the tapings, the words of wisdom to be shared by Dibia Chedozie, Dibia Yudi, and myself on YouTube and on Chiism, Global Faith Ministries of Chiism. These are individual vision, individual words of wisdom that we're going to share. Looking forward to sharing it with you. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here today. DBS, thank you for being here. God bless everyone. And I pray for a wonderful day for all of you. Agazie.